shifted, even though nothing obvious on the surface has changed? Most people never stop long enough to recognize this transformation. But when your vibration starts rising, reality doesn't immediately look different, it feels different first. And this shift, as subtle as it may be, is often the first sign that you're entering an entirely new frequency of being. In this video, we're going to explore 5 specific signs that you are vibrating at a higher frequency. These aren't vague affirmations or wishful thinking. They're real, observable changes, physical, emotional, and perceptual, that signal your internal resonance is transforming in ways that modern science and ancient wisdom are only beginning to understand. You see, everything you encounter is part of a field of probabilities, a quantum matrix of possibilities that collapses into form based on your coherent attention and the emotional charge you bring to each moment. When you begin to elevate your frequency, this field responds in ways that can seem almost magical. Relationships evolve, synchronicities increase, your nervous system reorganizes itself around a new baseline of coherence. But because we're conditioned to measure progress only through external achievements, many people overlook the small internal milestones that are actually proof you're expanding into a new timeline. Today, you'll learn how to recognize these milestones in yourself. Because when you understand the evidence of higher vibration, you no longer doubt whether you're doing it right. You start to trust the process, even when your outer life is still catching up to your inner state. And here's something to reflect on before we continue. High vibration isn't about constant bliss. It's about becoming aware of subtler, more refined states of energy. Feeling when your field is coherent, when your nervous system is regulated, when your perception expands beyond old limitations. These experiences can be gentle, almost quiet, but they carry an unmistakable clarity that tells you are changing. So, as you listen, I invite you to notice what resonates. Perhaps you'll recognize 1 or 2 of these signs immediately. Perhaps you'll realize you've been evolving without even having the language for it. Or perhaps this will be your first glimpse into what becomes possible when you commit to embodying a higher frequency. By the end of this exploration, you'll have a clear understanding of what it looks and feels like to vibrate at a level where the field begins to mirror your most authentic state back to you. And if you've ever wondered whether the shifts you sense are real or just your imagination, you'll finally have the validation that you are not just thinking differently, you are becoming a new version of yourself. Stay with me. The signs you've been searching for may already be here, waiting for your awareness to bring them fully into focus. Before we explore each of the 5 signs in detail, it's important to understand why these shifts happen in the first place. Because if you know the science behind them, you'll trust them when they start to emerge in your own life, and you'll stop dismissing your experience as coincidence or imagination. In quantum physics, there is a principle called the observer effect. The act of observing a phenomenon inevitably alters its behavior. On a subatomic level, particles exist as waves of probability until they are measured. In that instant of observation, the wave collapses into a single, observable state. This is how all of reality emerges, from the interplay between consciousness and energy. You are not just a passive witness of your life. You are the observer collapsing potential into form through the frequency you emit. But here's what most people don't realize. Observation isn't limited to your conscious thoughts. It includes your subconscious beliefs, your habitual emotions, and the electromagnetic fields generated by your heart and brain. When you elevate your vibration, you're not simply thinking positively. You're reorganizing your entire system, from your neurobiology to your energetic signature, to broadcast a coherent signal into the quantum field. Let's break this down more practically. Your heart generates an electromagnetic field that can be measured several feet beyond your body. Researchers have discovered that when you feel elevated emotional states, like appreciation, compassion, or genuine peace, this field becomes more organized and powerful. Your brain waves also shift into more harmonious patterns. This state is called coherence, and it's the foundation of higher frequency living. Why does this matter? Because coherence is what the field responds to. When your heart, brain, and nervous system are aligned, the energy you emit is clear and stable. In that state, you literally become more sensitive to information outside the limits of ordinary perception. You start noticing synchronicities. You feel drawn to new choices without overthinking. You perceive subtle shifts in other people's energy. It's not because you're making things up. It's because your system is tuned to a broader spectrum of information. This is also why people who are vibrating at a higher frequency often experience physical and emotional shifts they can't always explain. From a scientific perspective, elevated emotional states influence the release of neurotransmitters and hormones. For example, oxytocin, associated with bonding and trust, increases. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, decreases. The body moves out of survival mode and into a state of regeneration. Over time, this doesn't just change how you feel, it can change your baseline physiology. Think of it this way: when you live mostly in low-frequency emotions like fear, resentment, or chronic stress, your nervous system adapts to that environment. Your brain becomes wired to expect threat, your immune system becomes overactive or depleted, and your perception becomes narrow and reactive. But when you begin cultivating higher frequency states, the opposite happens. Your system learns to relax, your mind becomes more creative, your body begins to repair, and your electromagnetic field reflects that harmony into the space around you. From the perspective of the quantum field, this is profoundly significant. Because if you are the observer, and your vibration is the filter through which you collapse possibilities into form, then learning to sustain elevated frequency is the most important skill you can develop. It changes everything: how you see yourself, how you respond to challenges, and ultimately what experiences become available to you. One of the most fascinating discoveries in this area comes from research on heart-brain synchronization. Studies have shown that when your heart and brain rhythms are coherent, you enter what some scientists call a flow state, a period where you lose track of time, feel deeply connected, and perform at your highest potential. Athletes describe this as the zone. Artists call it inspiration. Mystics call it unity. But the underlying mechanism is the same. Coherence generates a frequency of resonance that aligns you with experiences that match that energy. This is why the 5 signs you'll learn in this video are so important. They're not random or superficial. They are evidence that your nervous system, your perception, and your energy field are reorganizing themselves. They're markers of coherence becoming your new normal. And as you recognize them, you'll begin to trust that even when the external world hasn't yet transformed, the deeper architecture of your reality is already shifting. So, as you listen to each sign, I encourage you to be curious. Notice whether parts of your own experience echo these descriptions. You might realize you've been dismissing small but powerful signals, like moments of unexplainable calm or an increased sensitivity to people's intentions, as insignificant. In truth, these are among the most important indicators that you're stepping into a higher frequency of being. And remember, this isn't about achieving perfection or never feeling negative emotions again. It's about learning to recognize when your vibration is rising, so you can consciously nurture that state rather than slipping back into old patterns of contraction. The field doesn't need you to be flawless. It simply responds to the coherence and clarity of your signal. In the next part of this experience, we'll begin with the first 2 signs, 2 of the most common and yet most misunderstood shifts that occur when you start vibrating at a higher frequency. If you've ever wondered whether your sense of peace is real, or whether the way people respond to you has changed, these signs will help you see your evolution with fresh eyes. Stay with me, because the clearer your awareness becomes, the more easily the field can reflect your highest potential back to you. The first sign that you're vibrating at a higher frequency is often the least dramatic, and that's exactly why so many people overlook it. You begin to notice a subtle but pervasive sense of peace that no longer depends on your circumstances. It's not the same as feeling temporarily relieved when something good happens. It's a deeper kind of calm that arises without any specific external trigger. You might wake up one morning and realize that the usual worries feel strangely muted, as if they've lost their power to grip your attention. Or you notice that even when plans don't unfold the way you expected, your body doesn't immediately tense or brace for disappointment. This isn't apathy or avoidance. It's the emergence of a new baseline of regulation in your nervous system. From a neuroscientific perspective, this is profound. It means your brain and heart are communicating more effectively. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and perspective, begins to exert more influence over the limbic system, the part of your brain wired for survival reactions. The result is a growing capacity to witness your experience without being consumed by it. This is why, in the language of quantum physics, you could say your observer has become more neutral. You're no longer collapsing potential realities from a place of chronic fear. Instead, you're holding space for more possibilities to emerge, because your energy is no longer stuck in repetitive cycles of contraction. The second sign is more physical, but equally important. You begin to feel spontaneous releases of tension in your body. You might notice that your shoulders soften without any conscious effort, or that chronic tightness in your chest or gut gradually dissolves. These sensations are your body's way of integrating higher frequency states. When you vibrate at lower frequencies, especially fear, resentment, or shame, your muscles, fascia, and organs adapt by holding protective tension. Over time, this tension becomes so familiar you stop noticing it. But as you elevate your vibration, your nervous system begins to send signals of safety, and your physiology responds by letting go. You may also notice changes in your breathing. People who are vibrating at a higher frequency often experience naturally deeper, slower breaths, even when they aren't trying to relax. This is because your autonomic nervous system has shifted out of sympathetic dominance, fight or flight, and into parasympathetic regulation, the state where healing, digestion, and regeneration occur. This release doesn't always feel comfortable at first. Sometimes, when your body lets go of long-held tension, you may experience waves of unexpected emotion, sadness, relief, or even subtle grief for the parts of yourself that were bracing against life for so long. This is normal. It's a sign that old patterns are dissolving to make space for more coherence. If you've felt these changes, this quiet peace and the unwinding of tension, it's not in your imagination. These are some of the earliest and most reliable indicators that your frequency is rising. They show that your body and mind are starting to entrain to a more stable, coherent signal. You might be wondering why these shifts happen before any obvious changes in your outer world. The reason is simple. Your energy field always reorganizes before your circumstances do. Think of it like updating the software of your consciousness. Your internal operating system needs to change first so that the programs you run, your habits, relationships, and decisions can naturally align with your new frequency. This is why so many people get discouraged when they don't see immediate evidence that their vibration is having an impact. They expect the field to respond instantly with external rewards, but in truth, the most significant transformations begin as subtle adjustments in perception and physiology. When you learn to recognize them, you stop doubting your progress, and that self-trust becomes a powerful catalyst for continued evolution. Before we move to the next signs, take a moment to reflect on your own experience. Have you noticed moments of unexplainable calm? Times when you responded to stress differently, even if only for a few seconds? Have you felt your body letting go in ways you didn't consciously initiate? These are not trivial details. They are milestones. Each one is evidence that your vibration is recalibrating, and that you are preparing to embody a state of being that naturally attracts more aligned experiences. In the next part of this exploration, we're going to look at 2 more signs that your frequency is rising. These are often more visible in your interactions with other people and the way your external life begins to reorganize. If you've ever wondered why certain relationships or circumstances seem to drift away without drama, or why synchronicities start to multiply in your life, you'll finally have the clarity to understand what's really happening beneath the surface. Stay present with me. The more you learn to recognize these signals, the more naturally you'll align with the field of possibility that's always been waiting for you to meet it. The third sign that you are vibrating at a higher frequency often surprises people because it challenges our attachment to familiarity. You'll begin to notice that certain relationships and environments naturally start to fall away. This doesn't happen because you suddenly decide you're better than the people around you. It happens because your resonance changes, and everything in your life that doesn't match that new frequency begins to lose its grip on your attention and energy. At first, this can feel unsettling. You may find that conversations you once enjoyed feel hollow, or that spaces you used to occupy drain you in ways you can't quite explain. You might notice old patterns of connection, complaining, gossiping, reliving past wounds, begin to feel heavy and out of sync. This is your system's way of showing you that the energy exchange no longer serves your growth. From the perspective of quantum coherence, this makes perfect sense. When your field becomes more organized and stable, anything operating at a less coherent frequency creates an energetic dissonance. You literally feel out of resonance because you are. And while this dissonance can be uncomfortable, it's also an indicator that your evolution is real. One of the most compassionate ways to navigate this shift is to recognize that it's not about judgment or superiority. It's simply about alignment. When you raise your vibration, you're choosing to live from a state of presence, authenticity, and possibility. Relationships and environments that thrive on fear, scarcity, or drama will either adapt to meet you or gradually fade from your experience. This is a natural process of energetic selection. Sometimes you'll also notice that people are triggered by your new state. When you become more calm, more trusting, or more grounded, others who are attached to the familiar patterns of stress may feel threatened, even if you never say a word. This is because your energy field acts as a kind of mirror, reflecting back what they are choosing not to see in themselves. It's important in these moments to stay anchored in compassion rather than contraction. You don't need to convince anyone to change. You only need to honor the frequency you are embodying. The fourth sign is one of the most encouraging. You start experiencing synchronicities and unexpected alignments with increasing regularity. Events that once felt rare or random begin to occur more frequently. Meaningful coincidences, chance encounters, doors opening effortlessly. From the perspective of quantum physics, this is not superstition. When your vibration becomes more coherent, your perception expands, and you become more sensitive to subtle information fields. Your brain is no longer preoccupied with scanning for threat, so it becomes available to notice patterns and connections that were always present, but previously filtered out. This is why, in elevated states, you might think about a person and receive their message minutes later. You might feel compelled to take a different route home and discover an opportunity you could never have planned. Or you may simply feel guided to make small decisions that later reveal themselves as pivotal. These experiences are not random rewards for being good. They are the natural consequence of aligning your internal state with the intelligence of the field. The quantum realm is not linear. It responds to coherence, clarity, and emotion much faster than it responds to effort alone. So the more you relax into elevated states, the more you become a magnet for situations that mirror your vibration. It's important here to distinguish between seeking synchronicities as proof and allowing them as validation. When you chase signs to reassure yourself that you're worthy or on the right path, you actually introduce resistance into your field. But when you observe them with curiosity and gratitude, they amplify naturally. Think of them as echoes confirming that you are in resonance with the timeline you've chosen. If you're listening and recognizing yourself in these descriptions, if you've noticed relationships shifting without drama, or if life has started arranging itself in ways that feel improbably supportive, pause and honor this moment. You are witnessing evidence that your field is evolving. And here's something you might reflect on. Most people never realize that these signals are proof of transformation because they expect change to look dramatic. But in reality, the most life-changing shifts often begin as subtle recalibrations, a different quality of breath, a deeper presence in a conversation, a sense that you don't have to force outcomes anymore. Before we move into the final sign, the one that brings all these changes into a cohesive expression, I'd love to invite you to engage with this process more consciously, because naming your experience is a powerful way to strengthen it. So right now, take a moment to anchor your intention and acknowledge where you are in your journey. In the comments, simply write, "I am rising." These 3 words are more than affirmation. They are a declaration to the quantum field and to your own subconscious that you recognize your evolution and are willing to embody it fully. In the next part of this exploration, we'll uncover the 5th sign, the unmistakable clarity of purpose and self-worth that emerges when your vibration becomes stable. This final sign often feels like coming home to a version of yourself that has always been waiting just beneath the noise. Stay with me, because the integration of these shifts is where real transformation takes root. and where your new reality begins to crystallize. The fifth sign that you are vibrating at a higher frequency is perhaps the most profound, and also the most quietly revolutionary. You begin to experience an unshakable clarity of purpose and a deep sense of self-worth that no longer depends on external validation. Unlike fleeting motivation or a temporary boost of confidence, this new awareness feels stable, as if it arises from somewhere beyond your personal history. At first, you might notice it in small ways. You feel less compelled to explain or justify your decisions to others. You trust your intuition more naturally, without needing to gather endless evidence before acting. You feel anchored in a quiet knowing that what resonates for you is enough, even if no one else understands it. From a neuroscientific perspective, this is a reflection of your brain moving out of survival patterns and into higher order processing. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that imagines, creates, and envisions, becomes more active when you are no longer consumed by stress chemistry. Your thoughts are no longer dominated by loops of fear or comparison. Instead, you gain access to a broader field of possibilities, and with that comes a more authentic sense of direction. This clarity doesn't arrive as a dramatic revelation. More often, it feels like a gentle unfolding. You start noticing that the things you used to chase, the approval, the status, the constant reassurance, lose their emotional charge. You realize that your value isn't something you need to prove or perform. It's something inherent, a frequency you embody simply by being fully yourself. In the language of quantum physics, this is the point where your observer and your field achieve coherence. You are no longer trying to create reality from a place of lack or urgency. You are witnessing your life from a state of sufficiency, and the field responds to this with experiences that reflect your wholeness. One of the most beautiful aspects of this sign is how it simplifies your experience of life. You don't feel compelled to force outcomes or manipulate circumstances. You trust that when you act from alignment, the right opportunities and relationships will emerge without strain. This doesn't mean you never take action. It means your action becomes an expression of resonance rather than an attempt to fill an internal void. This is why, for so many people, this fifth sign feels like coming home. It is the moment when you realize that your worth and purpose were never missing. They were simply obscured by noise and distortion. As your vibration rises, that noise quiets. What remains is the clarity that you are already enough, and that you have always been more powerful than you were taught to believe. This state has a measurable impact on your biology. Studies show that people who cultivate coherent heart-brain states experience increased immune function, improved hormonal balance, and enhanced cognitive performance. From a quantum perspective, this coherence stabilizes your field, creating a more consistent frequency that collapses higher probability outcomes into form. You may also notice that this clarity affects how you relate to others. When you no longer seek constant reassurance, your relationships become cleaner, less entangled. You stop tolerating dynamics that drain your energy or diminish your authenticity. You feel less reactive when people disagree with you because your sense of self isn't threatened by their perspective. This is a hallmark of higher frequency living. Your outer life starts to reorganize around your inner coherence. The timelines you once occupied, timelines of proving, striving, and pleasing, begin to dissolve. In their place, you find a simpler, more spacious way of being. If this resonates with you, if you can feel even a hint of this clarity emerging in your life, I invite you to pause and acknowledge it. Most people spend years searching for purpose without realizing that it isn't something to acquire. It's something you uncover by releasing the interference in your field. So take a breath. Feel into your body. Notice if there is any part of you that already knows you are exactly where you are meant to be. Let that recognition land, because this is not a fleeting insight. It is the foundation of an entirely new way of experiencing reality. In the final part of this experience, we're going to bring everything together. I'll guide you through a short practice to help you feel this elevated frequency in your body right now, and to anchor the shifts you've discovered so they can become your new normal. And if you've been sensing that this is more than just information, that something in you is already recalibrating as you listen, stay with me. Integration is where transformation becomes embodied. As we arrive at this final part of our exploration, I want to invite you into something deeper than understanding. Because information alone doesn't transform your reality. Embodiment does. It's one thing to know intellectually that you are vibrating at a higher frequency. It's something else entirely to feel it in your body, to sense it in the subtle field around you, to trust it as the new baseline of your life. So before we part ways today, I'd like to guide you through a short practice to help you anchor this awareness. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed for a few minutes. Sit comfortably, or lie down if you prefer. Allow your hands to rest softly in your lap or over your heart. Close your eyes if that feels safe for you. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose. Feel your belly and your chest expanding. Exhale gently through your mouth, allowing any surface tension to melt away. Do this 2 more times, finding a rhythm that feels natural and unforced. Now bring your awareness to the space just in front of your chest. Imagine this space as a luminous field, a gentle sphere of energy, subtle but undeniable. As you breathe in, see this field glowing a little brighter. As you breathe out, feel it expanding around you, like a calm, intelligent presence that knows exactly who you are. With your next inhale, allow yourself to recall a moment from your life. Any moment when you felt completely present. Maybe it was a time of quiet joy or a fleeting sense of wonder. Maybe it was a moment when you felt seen, understood, or simply at peace. Let the feeling of that memory rise in your body. It doesn't have to be dramatic, just something real. As you hold this sensation, silently repeat to yourself, I am the observer. I am the field. I am the frequency. Feel the meaning of these words echoing through your chest, your spine, your whole body. You are not separate from the quantum field. You are a unique expression of it, participating in the endless dance of probability becoming form. Your vibration is not an abstract idea, it is the signal that life responds to. Stay here for a few more breaths. Notice any subtle shifts, a softening, a warmth, a feeling of quiet expansion. You don't need to analyze it, just let it be. When you feel ready, gently bring your awareness back to your surroundings. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Open your eyes, keeping that sense of spaciousness with you. If you felt even a flicker of recognition during this practice, if you sensed that your energy is indeed changing, I want you to know that this is how transformation begins. Not in giant leaps, but in moments like this. Moments when you choose to become the signal rather than the echo. And I'd like to remind you, you are not alone in this. There is a growing community of people who are ready to live from this place of coherence and presence. People who are curious, committed, and willing to explore the intersection of science and spirit. If this journey has resonated with you, if you feel something stirring that you don't want to lose track of, I'd love to invite you to join us. Subscribing isn't about collecting more content. It's about choosing to stay in resonance with these ideas and to be part of a shared field of exploration. It's an act of alignment, a signal to yourself and the universe that you are ready to embody a higher frequency, moment by moment. So if this feels right for you, you can subscribe now, and know that every time you return to this space, whether for a new video or to revisit what you've learned today, you are reinforcing the clarity of your field. You are reminding yourself that this way of being isn't just possible. It's your natural state when you release the noise and remember who you truly are. Thank you for your presence here, for your curiosity, and for the quiet courage it takes to step beyond the familiar into a more expansive reality. Stay in coherence. Keep observing with compassion, and always remember you are the frequency and the field is listening.